Okay, YouTube, Facebook friends and family, this Brother Ron with Black Media Incorporated. And today we're going to talk about the motherland, Africa Part 2, land of our ancestors. But before I dive directly into the heart of this small, short synopsis about Africa, did you not know that the average black person will reject the history of Africa before slavery because they're so unfamiliar with what went on there? And not only that, when I ask people on a daily basis sometimes, do they know who King Azana was? Or have they ever heard of a guy by the name of Sarah Sultan? Or have they ever heard of the term Hamitic? Or do they know what the Temple of On mean in Africa? Most of them say it's no. And that's not an indictment to them, but because they have not been taught the African history before slavery. So we've been whitewashed in America with American history, and you know as well as I know that most historians that taught us throughout the years, they whitewashed our history. They really didn't teach us the truth about our people before they were made slaves. So today we're going to just do something brief on Africa, just to let you know about the motherland, which they call Egypt, which they call Kemet, which they call Cush, which they call the land of Ham, which they call the Dark Continent. And the only thing dark about Africa is our ignorance of Africa. And we understand that there's three great things about Africa. And number one, we know that Africa is big, Africa is bountiful, and Africa is also beautiful. Africa is big because it is a geographical area of 12 million square miles. Now that's large. That's larger than the United States of America. So Africa is big, Africa is beautiful. We know that Africa is probably the most beautiful continent place ever because of its contrast. And not only that, with the mountains and with the rivers and the animals that's there. And number three, we also know that Africa is bountiful. The soils of Africa will grow any crop. So we know those three things about Africa, and we know that not only that, but many, in times past, many enemies tried to invade Africa, but they couldn't because our people were known to be fierce fighters. But it was so many jealous nations around Africa that they kept trying to break in and break in and break in, and finally Africa was overthrown and taken over, and our people were kidnapped and marched all the way from their places of residence, sometimes even for weeks, to the slave port, and also finally through the door of what they call of no return. So I'll say this, even if you've never been to Africa or stepped on the soils of Africa, you still can go back through the door of no return. And I mean that by studying your own African history. Because our people were the most indigenous people on the face of the planet during their civilization. They created and came up with the first civilization. Every European nation this day, when Africa was taken over, has most of their artifacts, most of their statues, and most of the gold that was buried up under the feet of our people. And that's a tragedy because they lost a lot. And a lot of times we need to recover those stories so we can teach our children's children about who our ancestors were in our own land, because America is not our land. We are a nation within a nation here in America, but America is not our native land, because we was brought over here, our ancestors of course, as slaves. So we want to just talk about and glorify Africa just for a little while. Africa was known also to have the 3 Gs, and I'm not talking about the Sprint 3G network, but Africa was known to have the God, the glory, and the gold. And you know they had God in their life because God placed all the wealth up under their feet. Number one, they had the gold is because the gold mines, the silver mines, the topaz mines, all of the precious emerald and stone was right under the feet of Africa, and all the natural resources. And not only that, they had the glory, the most beautiful nation in the world. And that's why people were absolutely fascinated with the Dark Continent, and they wanted to go there and just spoil and reap all of the natural resources and the precious golds and minerals and everything that was there, so they can make money off of it. And even right now today Africa is trying to America and all of the European countries are still trying to recolonize the rest of Africa, because when it was taken over in slavery, only 90% was colonized. So they're trying to actually recolonize Africa and go back over there, which they're there now. And not only that, but the United States even got military bases set up over there. But they had so much to give us, and they left their stories on the walls just so we can remember their stories. They wrote and engraved and carved out their history, which was very clever of our people. They carved their history out for us on the walls, on the stones of walls. And not only that, they painted all of their artwork either black or dark brown to let the enemies and anybody else know that will come over there that these was black people who did this. Yes, it was a black thing, even way back in those times. So Africa was the glory of the world. I've heard in times past that they call Africa the eighth wonder of the world, but no, it wasn't the eighth wonder. It was the first wonder, and that's why they wondered why it was so great, and that these dark-skinned people who was tall and pure, even as the Bible say, that they was tall and pure, these Ethiopians, these Cushite people. Ethiopia, Ether means sunburnt, and Opia means face. It was talking about the people with the sunburnt face, and it was talking about the black man and the black woman in Africa. And not only that, but they went through 30 dynasties before they was taken over into slavery. Africa was the glory of the world. The first 2,000 years in our history, the black man and the black woman ruled their planet. But they won't tell you that in the history books because they didn't want you to know that. They wanted to confiscate our history, and it's a shame that they did, and it's a shame that we've let them do it. And that's why we need to study the truth about our history. Check out books and buy books from black historians. Please, I'm tired of, like I said in the last video, I'm tired of whitewash information that don't mean us any good. The only thing they wanted us to know about Africa when I was in grade school was the bad, the ugly, and the inferior. When they showed our people, usually they showed half-naked clothed people and living in tents and huts, but they never showed you the glory of Africa. They never showed you the Nigeria that has the second largest and the wealthiest oil wells over there in the land. They never showed you the awesome, beautiful parts about our land. They wanted to show you all of the deprivation, all of the poverty, all of the sickness and disease, which the United States, France, and England planted over there anyway in the first place, and trying to kill the people off with the AIDS virus. And yes, but anyway, our story remains a story and a legacy that they could not erase. Check out books and buy books from black historians that will tell you the truth. We honor our master teachers, many of them gone home. But we give honor to them for the stories that they wrote and how they went back to the land after slavery and checked it out for themselves and got the true history from many of their matriarchs and their patriarchs. So we have a history inside of a history, and we have a history before American history, but they never wanted us to know about that. Not only that, but Africa, they found in the oldest city of Kush. It was, I can't pronounce the name, it was Aicaka. It was known for its great library. It had 50,000 books mounted on the walls. It also had 30,000 tablets that had information compiled on them. But this library was so great, it was known, and everyone went there. And it was the glory of Africa knowledge. But when Constantine and Napoleon showed up, Constantine said that when it was making our people slaves, he said, take all of the books of the black man and burn them, because they wanted to erase and totally confiscate and destroy our history. Napoleon, when he saw the Sphinx and it had Negroid features, the features of a black man, Napoleon blew the nose off the Sphinx because he saw the features of the black man with thicker nose and wider lips. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the way God created us. But anyway, all of the statues, you check out books in the library, you will see all of the statues, all of the artifacts of our black men and women with their noses or their lips blown off, because they did not want us to know that it was our people that left that legacy for us. And this is why we need to study our history. This is what you will see on Black Media Incorporated. When you go online, type in Ron Wash 67, RONWASH 67, and you will get many brief lectures and much information about black issues and black history, because we need to teach our generation who we were and what type of geniuses that's still inside of us. But we got to research our history ourselves, because every single education category that they created, I'm talking mathematics, They was the first to domesticate animals. They was the first to smote iron, which we're still doing today. They were the first to come up with the solar system and astrology. They were the first to come up with chemistry. That's where they get chemistry from the land of the Kemetic people, who were black people. So we have a history inside of a history, and what they did was, the Europeans, they went over there, they copied, they stolen, they confiscated, they copied, they duplicated, they tried to replicate, and then they regurgitated all of our people's knowledge back to us, and thinking that they're doing something in their universities in which we study and learning each day in America. But most of everything that they got in America and was taught was already being taught in Africa, and I'm talking about over 1,000 years ago. That's how clever our people were. They were using their minds. They were using their minds. And that's why so many enemies, nations were just absolute jealous of Africa. So I charge every black man, every black woman to check out these books. Go back to Africa. Go back through the door of return and pick up the knowledge and let it just soak inside of you, so you can be knowledgeable about the great motherland, which they call Egypt. Egypt means black. Egyptian means blackness. And it was many names for our people. The land of Ham, the Hamitic people. We had several different names, but they were all people of color. So they left their stories on the wall so the enemies couldn't erase it. What a clever move from our ancestors, and we thank them for that to this very day. I'm Brother Ron Washington, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.